Recap, Tales of Herding Gods, Chapter 517. Chapter Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. Emperor Yanfeng rose in fury, his gaze flickering like flame stirred by a sudden gale. Return my wine to me. Xing'an remained unmoving, seated as still as an ancient pine rooted upon a cliff, his hand firmly clasping the mouth of the wine jar. Emperor Yanfeng slowly extended his palm, yet the motion was arduous beyond belief. A mere span of distance demanded the passing of half an incense's time. Beside the bonfire, Qin Mu, Xu Shenghua, and the others fell into silence, each lowering their gaze to study their own palms. Xing'an's hand was steady as a mountain, his arm gripping the wine jar without the slightest tremor. In contrast, Emperor Yanfeng's outstretched arm quivered faintly, his 5 fingers trembling without cease. Each minute vibration carried a profound and indescribable force that pressed upon Qin Mu and the rest. Every tremble of his fingers was akin to the unleashing of a divine art. Within that refined control, one could faintly glimpse his vital qi condensing into incomparably fine flood dragons, weaving between the veins of his arm and palm. Beneath his skin, it was as though a true dragon coiled, gathering power in silence. Yet that power did not remain in a constant state of dominance. Instead, it surged and receded in a rhythmic cycle, tightening and slackening like the breath of heaven and earth. What Emperor Yanfeng cultivated was the 9 Dragons Monarch technique, a supreme art he had once imparted to Qin Mu. The youth had since comprehended a variant of it and passed it to Ling Yuxiu, who in turn transmitted it to her father. Emperor Yanfeng himself was a peerless genius. Though the 9 Dragons Monarch technique had once been unremarkable, he had refined it tirelessly, elevating its might to the utmost peak until it stood on equal footing with the 3 great sacred grounds. After obtaining the inheritance from the true dragon's nest, he eradicated every hidden flaw within the technique. His divine treasures grew ever more formidable, their resilience earning even Xing'an's acknowledgement as something that had already reached the threshold of the god realm. Now that he had crossed the divine bridge and stepped into the realm of gods, his cultivation had become denser and more profound than ever before. When Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu beheld the true dragon's power beneath his skin, tightening and slackening in perfect rhythm, their minds trembled violently as countless insights and realizations surged within them. The 9 Dragons Monarch technique. Qin Mu had once imparted to Ling Yuxiu was incomplete, for he had not fully deciphered all the writings of the dragon race. With the assistance of the Bai siblings, he later unraveled more of its secrets and elevated the technique further. Yet after returning to eternal peace, he had not had the opportunity to pass this more complete version to Ling Yuxiu, for Emperor Yanfeng to cultivate to such a level, using only an incomplete technique. The profundity of the 9 Dragons Monarch technique was truly unfathomable. It was as though he had walked the entire path despite lacking its full map. Yet even with his true dragon divine art entering the path, Emperor Yanfeng still found it exceedingly difficult to advance before Xing'an. Every inch forward was a bitter struggle. Though he concealed the myriad transformations of his divine arts with flawless control, they still fell short against Xing'an's palm, which remained as immovable as a mountain. At last, Emperor Yanfeng grasped the mouth of the jar, but in that very instant, Xing'an flicked a finger toward his palm. Emperor Yanfeng responded in kind, raising a finger to meet it. Their fingertips collided, and a faint whisper of wind stirred within the wine jar, as though their exchange had set it trembling. At the mouth of the jar, their fingers blurred like shadows, clashing countless times in the blink of an eye. Kacha! A sharp sound rang out. Emperor Yanfeng's expression shifted as his middle finger snapped. Suppressing the pain, he withdrew his hand with a smile still upon his face. Slowly retreating, he said, "Since senior brother cherishes this wine so dearly, I shall present it as a gift." Xing'an placed the wine jar down casually, his demeanor indifferent. "My tolerance for liquor is poor. I am already satisfied." As the jar was set down, Hu Linger's fondness for wine stirred. She trotted over, taking a deep sniff before smiling. "Since none of you wish to drink, I shall have a taste." Yet just as she leaned closer, she heard a faint wind swirling within the jar. Startled, she peered inside. The wine churned and twisted, as though something within it moved and battled unseen. Curiosity ignited within her, and she raised her small head closer to the jar's mouth to examine it, only to be suddenly caught by the collar and lifted into the air. Chinmu pulled her back and set her down beside the bonfire. Shaking his head, he said, "Do not look. It is dangerous. If you want wine, I can have Yukshu fetch a few jars for you. Young master, inside the jar." It is extremely terrifying. Chinmu cast a cautious glance around before lowering his voice. "There are too many people here. Later, I will poke it and let you see. It will surely be a magnificent sight." Hu Linger's excitement surged as her gaze locked onto the wine jar. The wind within it grew louder and louder, fueling her curiosity further. She craned her neck repeatedly, unable to wait any longer. Even the fragrance of the wine seemed to grow richer and more intoxicating. Emperor Yanfeng returned to the banquet, where the Grand General of Heavenly Strategies stepped forward and asked, "Your Majesty, is it time to act?" Emperor Yanfeng raised his brows slightly. "You sensed it?" The Grand General nodded. "A formidable presence. Did your Majesty cross hands with him? Shall I summon Duke Wei?" Before he finished speaking, Duke Wei had already appeared behind him, his voice low and grave. "When your Majesty made your move, this old minister sensed a disturbance beneath the earth. Your divine arts shook the ley lines. That individual must be exceedingly powerful, your Majesty." Emperor Yanfeng shook his head. "Pay it no mind. The man is Xing An. For now he poses no threat. However," he hesitated briefly, "it will be difficult for Minister Qin, a truly loyal subject, yet to delay Xing An. He willingly kept that man by his side. I never imagined the Heavenly Devil Cult Master would possess such heroism and courage." He sighed deeply. "Cult Master said there is a grand business?" Si Yunxiang asked, blinking playfully at Qin Mu. "Shall we grow rich?" Hu Linger had been entirely focused on the wine jar, its fragrance stirring her craving. Yet upon hearing the words "grow rich," her body reacted before her mind did. She slowly turned her head. "Grand business? Wealth? Young master? What business is it?" "My journey to Fangdu with senior brother Xing An granted me a treasure known as Between Life and Death. It can connect Fangdu with the world of the living." Qin Mu cast a glance at Xing An. The man's usually tranquil expression shifted drastically, clearly recalling the humiliation he had suffered in Fangdu. Qin Mu smiled faintly. "The business I intend lies in the world of the living. Within Fangdu reside countless primordial spirits of gods and devils. Though dead, they live well within that realm. Many among them harbour unfulfilled wishes yet remain unable to leave Fangdu. For that reason, most would be willing to pay a great price for those in the living world to carry out tasks on their behalf. I have many matters to attend to and little time, so I intend to use this treasure to open a path for divine arts practitioners of eternal peace to accept missions from the dead. It will serve as both training and cultivation, and they may also grow wealthy." He spoke leisurely, a faint smile on his lips. "The gods and devils of Fangdu may impart techniques and divine arts to those who fulfill their wishes, or reward them with Fangdu gold coins to enter Fangdu. As for myself, I plan to charge a passage fee to cover my expenses." "Techniques and divine arts of gods and devils?" Everyone by the bonfire changed expression at once, their hearts shaken. Though they knew nothing of Fangdu gold coins, the techniques and divine arts of gods and devils alone were enough to stir their very souls. One must know that the great educational heavenly devil scriptures could turn a person into a god or devil. It was the sacred canon of the heavenly devil cult. The Tao Sword of Tao sect and Rulai's Mahayana Sutra were likewise techniques that could elevate one to godhood or Buddhahood, which was why they stood as the three great sacred grounds. Even if the techniques of Fangdu's gods and devils were inferior, they were still treasures beyond measure. Since Cult Master Qin established the spatial algebra model of the Divine Bridge and spread the secrets of Magpie Bridge, secrets of Mysterious Guide, and secrets of Divine Crossing, the Divine Bridge is no longer the greatest obstacle to becoming a god, Long Yu said. What truly hinders us now is the absence of God realm techniques. In recent days, many senior experts have come to Little Jade Capital seeking such methods, yet we possess nothing beyond the Divine Bridge realm. Tao Master Lin Xuan nodded. Our Tao sect likewise lacks the God technique of the Pre-Celestial Supreme Mystery Technique, Cultmaster Qin's words have stirred my heart deeply. For the powerful practitioners of Eternal Peace Empire, once the once impassable path had been opened, they found themselves without guidance beyond it. If Qinmu could truly connect both realms and allow them access to higher techniques, it would be a merit beyond measure, worth any price. Even Xing'an felt a flicker of temptation, yet recalling Fengdu's suppression, he dismissed the thought. These juniors, if they obtain techniques beyond the God realm, it will be hard to say whether I harvest their limbs or they scatter my soul. His gaze flickered, and for a brief instant, killing intent stirred within him, but as a great master, he suppressed it immediately. Si Yunxiang and Hu Ling'e breathed heavily, their eyes gleaming with excitement. A single thought echoed in both their minds. We shall become rich, wealth to rival the empire itself. Once between life and death is established, even the emperor will not resist entering Fengdu. Hu Ling'e's furry ears stood upright, twitching with excitement. Young master, how much shall we charge the emperor? Si Yunxiang's eyes shone. The old immortals of Little Jade Capital, the monks of Great Thunderclap Monastery, the Taoists of Dao Sect, they are all fat lambs awaiting slaughter. Monk Ming Xin, Taoist Lin Xuan, Wang Muran, and Ling Yuxiu all turned pale. Before they could speak, Si Yunxiang and Hu Ling'e exchanged glances, recalling something at the same moment. Young master, if we collect money from the living, what about the dead? We can collect there too. Blinded by greed, you two show no generosity whatsoever. Leave some profit for others, Qinmu said, shaking his head. I have already entrusted that side to the past human emperors of the Hall of Human Emperors. That income belongs to them, so abandon that thought. Si Yunxiang and Hu Ling'e felt slight disappointment. Hu Ling'e's tails drooped, but at the thought of impending wealth, they perked up once more. Dawn's light began to spread across the sky, and the banquet came to an end. Qinmu waited until all had departed before pulling Hu Ling'e away from the wine jar. He tossed a small stone inside. The stone fell in, yet no immediate reaction followed. Hu Ling'e frowned. Young master, could you be mistaken? Qinmu shook his head and turned to Xing'an. Senior brother Xing'an, this jar. It is suppressed by me, Xing'an said calmly. If you wish to release the power within, I can oblige. How many such jade mountains does your Imperial College possess? Do not release it, Qinmu cried, but before he could finish, Xing'an had already withdrawn his suppression. A strange smile curved his lips. Great divine physician, I too hold grudges. Qinmu's hair stood on end. Grabbing Hu Ling'e, he fled without hesitation. We can no longer remain in the capital. The Emperor will surely execute me. Run, quickly. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. There existed within the Imperial Archives a record penned by a court scribe during the winter of the 17th year within the 60-year cycle. It recounted a most astonishing phenomenon. The Jade Mountain of Imperial College had sunk 50 yards into the earth, while from the caverns within, scarlet flames surged forth, spreading across a radius of 800 miles. The spectacle had been described as one of unparalleled, almost ethereal beauty, as though heaven itself had painted the skies with fire. Yet, the scribe had left the cause of this upheaval shrouded in mystery. Instead, he cloaked the truth beneath elegant phrases and veiled meanings, merely noting that Heavenly Saint Academy's Grand Chancellor Qin had neglected his duties in teaching. For this, the Emperor had decreed punishment. His salary for the next 2 years was to be forfeited, and his rank was reduced from the dignified 4th tier to the humbler lower 5th. Within the palace, whispers travelled like wind through bamboo groves. It was said that at the break of dawn on that fateful day, a thunderous explosion shattered the silence, rousing the Emperor from his rest. With urgency, he soared through the skies to investigate, only to discover that the origin lay at Jade Dragon Lake. The once tranquil waters had become a scene of devastation. Countless red dragon carps floated lifeless upon the surface, while the lake itself had expanded several-fold, both in breadth and depth, as though it had swallowed the heavens' fury. Upon witnessing this, the Emperor's wrath ignited like a raging inferno. Reports claimed that as he roared in fury, demanding that someone be beheaded, his hand had been injured, blood staining his imperial dignity. Clutching a blade, the Emperor prowled across the mountain like a tempest-given form, yet the person he sought remained elusive. Instead, he came upon a slumbering dragon Qilin and a peculiar chest. Guarding them with unyielding vigilance, he waited, but as the sun climbed and later descended, no trace of his quarry appeared. By afternoon, even an emperor's patience had its limits, and he abandoned the search. Rumours drifted like drifting clouds. Some claimed that the culprit had already fled 1,000 miles away before dawn had fully broken. When the dragon Qilin eventually awoke, it was said to have mounted the chest, pursuing relentlessly for 2 days and 2 nights in an attempt to close the distance. Other whispers told a different tale, that the emperor had journeyed to the military encampment, lingering beside the formidable sunshot divine cannon for half a day. In the end, he had sighed deeply, his anger tempered by reason. His merit outweighs his fault. His crime does not yet warrant death. Let him be demoted and his salary stripped. With those words, he sheathed his massive blade and departed, his figure fading into the distance. Of course, such accounts were but fleeting rumours, unverified and untouchable. The scribes of the imperial court would never stain their records with matters lacking firm foundation. More than 10 days later, Qin Mu established between life and death within Border Dragon City of the Great Ruins. A vast river stretched across the firmament, linking heaven and earth, and Border Dragon City became a gateway connected to Fengdu itself. For a time, the city surged with unprecedented activity, as though the realms of life and death had converged into a single bustling domain. Originally, Border Dragon City had been the property of the Qin family, and most of its shops belonged to Heavenly Saint cult. From Eternal Peace, goods were transported here to be traded with the Great Ruins, while treasures of the Great Ruins flowed back through this city into Eternal Peace. As the first bastion before entering the Great Ruins, divine arts practitioners often chose it as their place of residence. With Qin Mu's arrival, their numbers multiplied dramatically, and prices soared like dragons ascending the heavens. Si Yunxiang and Hu Linge could scarcely contain their delight, their smiles as radiant as blooming flowers. A few days later, an official from the Ministry of Revenue ventured into the Great Ruins, intending to collect taxes. Instead, he was met with Qin Mu's sharp tongue and driven back in humiliation. Returning to the imperial court, he lodged a complaint before Emperor Yanfeng, who found himself torn between laughter and exasperation. The Great Ruins lie beyond the borders of Eternal Peace. That he did not kill you for attempting to collect taxes, there is already him giving me face. By the customs of the Great Ruins, you would have lost your head. Do not stir trouble. This land is not ours. Your Majesty, Grand Chancellor Qin is amassing wealth with terrifying speed. The commerce of Border Dragon City is immense, the Minister of Revenue protested. Furthermore, Your Majesty plans to construct roads linking West Earth and Eternal Peace, and both must pass through Border Dragon City. The 2 routes proposed by Grand Chancellor Qin all converge there. Border Dragon City will become the foremost strategic stronghold of the Great Ruins, its wealth unrivaled across the world. This minister believes the Grand Chancellor harbours selfish intent, using the imperial treasury to enrich his homeland. Emperor Yanfeng gazed at him deeply, a trace of helpless amusement in his eyes. West Earth was conquered by him, sparing us the cost of war and provisions. He also saved countless soldiers from perishing on the battlefield. Yet the divine arts practitioners travelling to Border Dragon City are all subjects of Eternal Peace. If their spending cannot be taxed, that city will become a kingdom within a kingdom, draining the wealth of our empire. If this continues, how can we endure it? Our coffers will run dry, the minister insisted. The emperor shook his head with a faint smile. Taoist Yuanfeng, you are skilled in Taoist calculations. How can you fail to see this? The minister bowed his head. This humble official is slow-witted. I beg your majesty for enlightenment. The practitioners who travel there use the great abundance coins minted by Eternal Peace, Emperor Yanfeng explained calmly. To spend them, they must first earn them within our lands. Thus, they must always return. The minister frowned. But what if those coins circulate within the Great Ruins and never return? The emperor's smile deepened. If great abundance coins were to replace gold, silver, and treasures within the Great Ruins, would that not be even better? Consider this. The imperial court mints the coins. Would we not then control the economy of the Great Ruins, which lacks its own currency? Would we not determine the measure of its wealth? When our coins replace gold and silver, we may purchase mountains, rivers, and resources with mere currency. When great abundance coins spread across the land, unifying the Great Ruins will be but a matter of time. The Minister of Revenue was rendered speechless. Emperor Yanfeng cast aside his memorial and rose, gazing into the distance with profound intent. To claim a fertile land like the Great Ruins without sacrificing a single soldier, relying only on currency, what a magnificent exchange! You are too rigid, seeing only the loss of coin, unaware that money can unify lands. This is the highest form of conquest. To govern a nation, one must not fixate on immediate gains or losses, but look decades, even centuries ahead. When Grand Chancellor Qin seeks profit, it is but coins. When I seek profit, it is rivers and mountains. No bloodshed, prosperity for the people and unity of the realm. The minister bowed deeply, utterly convinced. Your Majesty's words shall enlighten generations to come. Within Border Dragon City, Qin Mu stood amid the bustling streets, observing the ceaseless flow of merchants and practitioners. The presence of Eternal Peace's people had infused the city with unprecedented vitality. If the Imperial Preceptor succeeds in guiding the divine arts practitioners of West Earth to carve a path and construct roads between West Earth and Eternal Peace, the people of the Great Ruins will no longer suffer such hardship. He calculated silently. Over a month had passed since the Imperial Preceptor led Heavenly Works Hall westward. By now, the desert should have begun its transformation into fertile plains. With the green dragon bead of West Earth, such a feat was not difficult. Afterward, water would be drawn from snow-capped mountains to nourish streams, sustaining lush vegetation. If Heavenly Works Hall could pierce the southern mountains, drawing water vapor from the southern seas northward, the desert would never lack moisture. Rain and snow would become natural, not forced. In a few short years, the blazing desert would vanish into legend. Once the roads were completed, West Earth, Great Ruins, and Eternal Peace would be seamlessly connected. Merchants would pass through the towns and cities of the Great Ruins, bringing prosperity to its people. Divine Physician Qin, I hear you are a native of the Great Ruins. Xing'an's voice cut through his thoughts like a blade. You belong to the Great Ruins, yet you introduce the power of Eternal Peace into it. You are a sinner. Qin Mu blinked in confusion. There is no nation within the Great Ruins. How can I be a sinner? The people here live by their own means, without rulers. Even if Eternal Peace enters, its people become part of the Great Ruins. Guests cannot become masters. They must abide by the rules of this land. Here, survival follows its own way, not the Emperor's laws. Xing'an shook his head slowly. Though I have not dealt with Emperor Yanfeng much, I see his ambition clearly. One day, he will unify the Great Ruins. When that time comes, you will regret your actions. Qin Mu smiled faintly. If he dares to act against the Great Ruins, he will not remain on his throne long. You know how terrifying this land is. These stone statues, he said, pointing toward the temples, they await a single call to awaken. When they do, the heavens and earth will overturn. Eternal Peace will never claim this land. It belongs to another. His eyes flickered with understanding. I drove away the Minister of Revenue, yet the Emperor has not acted. I can see his intentions clearly, but his plans are but illusions. Unless he surpasses the founding Emperor, they will never come to fruition. I intend to sweep the tombs. Will senior brother Xing'an accompany me? Xing'an glanced at the chest with legs, then looked away. I will follow you wherever you go. I will only leave when I find the one I seek. Qin Mu frowned slightly. Then I shall visit the tombs after you settle your matters. The Hall of Human Emperors was a secret known only to past emperors. With Xing'an beside him, Qin Mu could not risk exposing it. And who could say whether Xing'an would not exhume the ancient emperor's remains for his own purposes? After more than 10 days, the Imperial Court, Heavenly Saint Cult, Tao Sect, Great Thunderclap Monastery, and others compiled records of individuals born at the specified time. The total reached 30,000. An official reported, records from the prairie, snow plains, and West Earth remain incomplete. Xing'an studied the countless scrolls, a heavy burden settling upon him. After a moment, he spoke. The person I seek is male. Separate the men from the women. The official immediately obeyed. Once sorted, he reported, 17,000 men in total, but only 8,000 remain alive, most perished in wars and calamities. After a pause, Xing'an added, exclude those who are not divine arts practitioners. The officials reorganized the records once more. 400 divine arts practitioners remain. Silence lingered before Xing'an spoke again. Check for unusual phenomena at their births. I seek one who bears a jade pendant. The official gave further orders. Qin Mu observed quietly, doubt stirring within his heart. Each time Xing'an issues a command, he hesitates, as though the words are not his own, as though he listens to another. That's right. He leaped from the Bridge of Helplessness into Yudu, a place far more perilous than Fangdu. How did he return? A flicker of realization passed through Qin Mu's eyes. Suddenly, a gate of heaven influence materialized behind him. His form shifted. He became a serpent-headed being, and a vertical eye opened upon his brow. Xing'an immediately turned, his gaze filled with divine brilliance, blocking Qin Mu's sight. Divine Physician Qin, he said coldly, there are truths you are better off not knowing. Qin Mu laughed lightly, dispersing his Saturn sovereign form, yet within shock surged like a tidal wave. In that fleeting moment, he had glimpsed a terrifying eye hidden within Xing'an's life and death divine treasure, and that eye had noticed him. It had been about to gaze back, only to be restrained by Xing'an. At that moment the official returned. We found no practitioner born with a jade pendant. Such tales of being born with jade are but legends. That man was not born with it. Xing'an replied after a pause, producing a drawing. This pendant suppresses his demonic nature. This is its image. Since we cannot identify him directly, distribute this image across all cities and locate it. Divine Physician Qin, have your people produce 1,000 copies. Qin Mu accepted the painting, his gaze settling upon the jade pendant depicted. Xing'an observed him closely. Have you seen such a pendant before? Qin Mu shook his head. Never. Xing'an's eyes flickered. He then produced a mirror. I have neglected to ask, Divine Physician Qin, how old are you now?